My sister has been getting way too close to my BF, and now he's ended things with me. Throwaway. Because my sister knows my main account, and I don't know. Sorry if this is all over the place. I've been crying on and off for like 2 days, and I'm still trying to process everything. So I, female, 26, have been dating Sam, male, 27, for about 2 years. Or I was, until yesterday when he ended things. And I'm just sitting here, completely blindsided and confused, and honestly wondering if I'm going crazy or if my sister Beth, female, 28, has been subtly trying to mess things up between us this whole time. And I know how that sounds, like I'm trying to blame someone else for my relationship problems or whatever, but please just hear me out. For some background, me and Beth have always had this complicated relationship, I guess. Growing up, she was always my mom's favorite. Like, it wasn't even subtle. Beth got the bigger bedroom, more expensive clothes for school, more attention at family gatherings, etc. My dad was more balanced with us, but he was also the one always telling me to keep the peace whenever there was any conflict. So I learned pretty early to just kind of go with whatever Beth wanted. Despite all that, I always looked up to her. She was always the confident one, the pretty one, the one who knew exactly what she wanted. I guess I've always just wanted her approval in some weird way. Anyway, a few months ago, Beth went through this rough patch where she got passed over for this big promotion at her marketing firm that she was sure she was going to get. Then, like a week later, her boyfriend Keith, they'd been together for 3 years, broke up with her out of nowhere. She was honestly a mess and ended up moving back in with our parents temporarily to regroup, her words. Since then, she's been spending way more time with me and Sam. At first, I was actually really excited about it because Beth and I have never been super close as adults, and I thought maybe this was our chance to actually have a real sister relationship. Like maybe she was finally seeing me as an equal or something. I don't know, that sounds dumb when I type it out. So at first, everything was fine. Beth would come over for dinner sometimes, or we'd all go out together. But then my best friend Kristen started pointing out some weird things, like how Beth's whole personality would shift depending on who was in the room. She'd be all sweet and supportive when others were around, but when it was just me and her, she'd make these little comments that would stick with me. Kristen has always been super protective of me. We've been friends since middle school, so I honestly just brushed it off as her being paranoid. But now, I don't know. Because Beth started giving me all this helpful relationship advice that just made me doubt things with Sam. Like she pointed out how Sam barely posts about me on Instagram, which is true, but he's just not a social media person at all and never has been. Or she'd ask these innocent-sounding questions like, "Doesn't it bother you that Sam still has lunch with Melissa from work?" Which it didn't until she mentioned it, because Melissa is literally engaged to another woman, and they're just friends. And then Beth started texting Sam constantly. Supposedly, it was to plan this surprise birthday party for me, which made sense at first, except my birthday is literally 5 months away. But I didn't want to seem paranoid or controlling by asking to see their texts or whatever, so I just tried to ignore the weird feeling in my stomach every time his phone would ding with her name. There was this one dinner that really stands out to me now. We were at this Italian place Sam and I love, and Beth tagged along. Sam had just gotten a haircut that day, and Beth kept touching his hair, saying how good it looked and how much more professional he seemed. When I mentioned I liked his hair longer, Beth got all condescending about how men in tech need to look put together, and Sam agreed. His team lead wanted him looking more polished. Then Beth started telling this embarrassing story about me getting gum stuck in my hair when I was 11, adding details that I'm pretty sure never happened and making me sound like a total mess. Sam was laughing along while Beth kept touching his arm during the whole story. She even offered to introduce Sam to someone at his dream company, and he got so excited I felt invisible. After that night, Sam and I started fighting more, like a lot more. And it was always about the weirdest things that we'd never fought about before. But looking back, they were always things that Beth had mentioned to one or both of us separately. Like she'd tell me Sam seemed distracted when I was talking about my day, then tell Sam I seemed frustrated with his work hours. Little things that added up. We'd been planning to move in together, had already started looking at apartments, but with all the fighting, we decided to pause those plans, which now feels like the beginning of the end, I guess. Anyway, yesterday Sam came over looking all serious, and said he needed space and thought we should take a break. When I asked him why, he mentioned how I'd apparently been complaining about his mom to Beth, which I never did. I barely even talk to his mom, and when I do, it's totally fine. But apparently Beth told Sam that I think his mom is overbearing and calls too much, which is literally something Beth has said about his mom, not me. But when I tried to explain that to Sam, he just got more frustrated and said he didn't know what to believe anymore, and that maybe we need time apart to figure things out. I tried calling Beth after he left, but she didn't pick up. She texted me this morning saying, "Just checking in. How are things with Sam?" Like, she doesn't even know what happened. I can't even deal with responding to her right now. Am I crazy? Has my sister been deliberately trying to break us up? Or am I just being paranoid and blaming her for problems that are actually mine and Sam's fault? I honestly don't know what to think anymore. Edit. Thank you for all the comments. No, I haven't confronted Beth directly yet. I'm honestly scared of what she'll say, or if she'll twist things around like she always does. And to the people saying I need to tell Sam the truth, I tried, but he was already so convinced that I'd been talking behind his back that he didn't believe me. A lot of people are asking if Beth has done stuff like this before. There was this one time in high school where I was supposed to go to prom with this guy I really liked, and somehow Beth ended up going with him instead. But that was years ago, and I thought we were past all that petty stuff. To clarify, since people are asking, Beth is staying with our parents, not with me. But their house is only like 15 minutes from my apartment, so she's over all the time. And yes, she and Keith broke up because he cheated on her. At least that's what she told us. I'm wondering now if there was more to that story too. Now for the first update. My sister is now engaged to my ex, and I just found proof she deliberately broke us up. I don't even know where to start with this update. I honestly can't believe this is my real life right now. It's been about a month since my last post, and things have somehow gotten a million times worse than I ever could have imagined. So after Sam broke up with me, I was a complete mess for about a week. Like, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, called in sick to work twice. I'm an elementary school teacher, and my students deserve better than zombie me. The whole thing. I was basically just alternating between crying and staring at the wall, wondering what the hell happened to my relationship. Beth kept texting me these, weirdly sympathetic messages. Stuff like, time heals all wounds, and maybe it wasn't meant to be, and other fortune cookie bullshit that felt off somehow. But I was so caught up in my own feelings, I didn't really think about it too much. Then, exactly 2 weeks after Sam broke up with me, I'm mindlessly scrolling through Instagram when I see this post from our mutual friend Jake with a picture of a group at this bar we all used to go to. And there in the background, Beth and Sam, together, his arm around her waist, looking very much not like brother-sister-in-law vibes. I literally thought I was hallucinating. I had to zoom in to make sure it was them. It was. I immediately called Beth, probably should have thought this through more, but I was freaking out. I asked if she was dating Sam, and after a weird pause, she admitted they had connected unexpectedly. I was shocked that it had only been 2 weeks since we broke up, and asked if they'd been talking before the breakup. She claimed it was only about surprise party stuff. But after we broke up, she said he needed someone to talk to. When I asked how that led to them dating, she got defensive, calling me selfish and saying she shouldn't be banned from dating my exes since we weren't married. I started crying, which I hate because it makes me feel weak, especially with Beth, and she immediately switched to this fake sympathetic voice. She claimed she never meant to hurt me and said they had a real connection and that she thought he might be the one. Then she had the audacity to ask for my blessing to date him. Like I'm supposed to just be fine with this. I hung up. I couldn't even deal with her anymore. Literally 20 minutes later, my mom calls. Apparently Beth called her crying, saying I was being cruel to her about her new relationship. My mom told me I needed to be mature about this and that I should want my sister to be happy. Are you kidding me? My dad called later and was a bit more understanding, but still with the let's keep the peace stuff he's always said my entire life. You know how your sister gets when she doesn't get her way, he said. Like that makes it okay. This is the same crap that happened in high school when Beth literally stole my prom date. This guy Jason I'd been crushing on forever finally asked me to prom. Then suddenly he was going with Beth instead. and my parents made me apologize to her for being upset about it. I've literally been trained my whole life to just let Beth have whatever she wants. I decided to just step back. I couldn't deal with any of them. I threw myself into work, started spending more time with Kristen, who is livid on my behalf and the only person who seems to understand how fucked up this is. I muted Beth and Sam on all social media. I just needed space. But then, 3 months after Sam broke up with me, my mom insists I come to this special family dinner. I didn't want to go, but she wouldn't stop calling, so I finally gave in. Guess what the special occasion was? Beth and Sam announced their engagement. Their engagement. 3 months after he broke up with me, after 2 years together. Beth was crying these fake tears, talking about how, when you know, and showing off this ring that looks exactly like one I had shown Sam on Etsy like 8 months ago. I'm not even kidding. Same center stone, same setting, everything. I was in complete shock. Literally could not process what was happening. The timing is just, I can't even. The absolute worst part of the dinner. Beth asked me to be a bridesmaid, right there, in front of my entire family. Everyone was staring at me waiting for my answer, and I said yes. Because what else could I do in that moment without looking like the crazy, bitter ex-girlfriend? So now I'm somehow a bridesmaid in my sister's wedding to my ex-boyfriend, who she started dating 2 weeks after we broke up. And the wedding planning has completely taken over every family gathering. My mom is so excited, planning everything, and Beth is being this complete bridezilla about everything. And I've noticed something else. When it's just me and Beth alone, she's different. Like the mask slips. When we were trying on bridesmaid dresses, she made this comment about how I should probably go a size up from what you think you need, with this little smirk. Or when I suggested some flowers I thought would look nice, she rolled her eyes and said, "Let's leave the planning to people with actual taste, okay?" But the real moment happened last weekend at her bridal shower. I got there early to help set up, because of course I did, and I heard Beth in the kitchen with 2 of her friends. They didn't know I was there. I heard Beth laughing about how easy it was to steal Sam away. One of her friends asked if she even liked him that much, and Beth admitted she liked him enough, adding that it was worth it to see my face during the engagement announcement. They were all laughing about it. Beth was mocking the way I looked when they announced it, doing this exaggerated, shocked face. Then she bragged about how quickly she got Sam to propose, reminding her friends that she always gets what she wants. I must have made some noise because they suddenly stopped and Beth came out and saw me. Her whole face just changed. Suddenly she was all sweet and thankful that I came early to help and hugged me like she hadn't just been making fun of me. I felt sick, like physically nauseous. But I stayed because I didn't know what else to do. Later during the shower, Beth went to the bathroom and left her phone on the table. I know this was wrong. I know, but I had to know if I was crazy or if all my suspicions were right. Her phone was unlocked. I quickly looked at her messages and found this group chat with those same 2 friends where they had been discussing this whole thing for months. Even before Sam and I broke up, there were messages where Beth called me pathetic and talked about how she was working on Sam. Messages where she literally outlined exactly how she was going to create problems between us. By telling Sam I was complaining about his mom, by making me insecure about his female coworker, all of it. There was even a message from like 2 weeks before Sam and I broke up where she said, "Almost there. He's starting to doubt everything about her." And the worst one, I don't even love him that much, but taking him from her is just too perfect. I took screenshots and sent them to myself before Beth came back. I have proof now. Actual proof that my sister deliberately destroyed my relationship just because she could. The wedding is in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. And I have these screenshots showing exactly what kind of person Beth is, and that this whole relationship is built on her manipulating and lying to both of us. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to just send these screenshots to everyone. Sam, my parents, the whole family. But another part of me is scared of the fallout. What if they somehow still take her side? What if I'm just causing problems again? Beth has always been able to twist things to make me look like the bad guy. What would you do if you were me? Edit. Thank you all for the supportive comments. To answer some questions, yes, my parents have always favored Beth. My whole life has been about keeping her happy. And yes, they're paying for most of the wedding, with help from an aunt and uncle who are covering the venue. Some people are asking if Sam is really this clueless. Honestly, I don't know. He's not stupid, but Beth is very good at manipulation. She's like a completely different person depending on who she's talking to. And from what I've pieced together from the messages, she told him a bunch of lies about me too. Now for the second update. So it's been about a week since my last post, and wow, I honestly don't even know where to begin. First of all, thank you to everyone who commented with advice and support. I read every single comment, even though I couldn't respond to all of them, and it really helped me feel less crazy during what has honestly been the most insane week of my entire life. When I left off, I was trying to decide what to do with the screenshots I had of Beth, basically admitting she deliberately sabotaged my relationship with Sam just because she could. I was torn between sending them to everyone, including Sam, or just trying to move on with my life and let karma handle things. After like 3 completely sleepless nights, I'm talking staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. wondering if I was making everything worse, I decided to talk to my parents first. I know a lot of you suggested going straight to Sam, but honestly, I was terrified of confronting him directly. And I guess part of me thought maybe if my parents saw actual proof, they'd finally take my side for once in my life. So I texted my mom and asked if I could come over to talk about something important. She immediately assumed it was about the wedding, because everything is about the stupid wedding now, and mentioned Beth was saying I hadn't responded about the final fitting for my bridesmaid dress. I almost canceled right there, but forced myself to follow through. I made sure Beth would be out, she was dress shopping with Sam, gag, and went over Sunday afternoon. My dad was there too, which was actually good because he's always been slightly more reasonable than my mom. So I get there, and I'm literally shaking. Could barely hold my phone to show them the screenshots. I tried to explain everything calmly. How I overheard Beth at the bridal shower, how yes, I know it was wrong, looked at her phone, and what I found. My dad's face just changed as I was explaining. I could literally see him getting angrier with every word, but my mom kept shaking her head, saying Beth wouldn't do that over and over. When I finally showed them the actual messages, my dad took my phone and just sat there, reading everything. My mom was looking over his shoulder, and her face went completely white. There was this message where Beth literally wrote, "I don't even want him that much," but watching her face when we announced the engagement made everything worth it. And another one where she outlined exactly how she was going to convince Sam I'd been talking about his mom behind his back. My dad looked up and asked why would Beth do this. He sounded so confused and hurt, and my mom was still trying to find excuses. She kept suggesting the messages might be taken out of context or that someone else sent them from Beth's phone, which is just, come on, Mom. And then my dad told me something that actually surprised me. He admitted this wasn't the first time Beth has done something like this, and they've just always looked the other way. This reminded me of this thing that happened when we were in high school that I hadn't thought about in years. When I was 16, I finally got into this friend group I'd been trying to be part of forever. And then suddenly all these rumors started going around school about me, really awful stuff about me, supposedly talking behind everyone's backs. I lost all those friends in like a week. I was completely devastated and had no idea where the rumors came from until one of the girls finally told me Beth had been the one telling everyone these things. When I confronted Beth, she cried and denied everything to my parents, and they believed her. I ended up having to switch to a different lunch period just to avoid everyone. Anyway, back to last Sunday. My mom finally started crying and admitted that Beth has always had jealousy toward me, which is literally the opposite of everything I've ever experienced. Beth was always the favorite, the pretty one, the successful one. I honestly had no idea how to respond to that. My dad said he was sorry for always telling me to keep the peace instead of addressing Beth's behavior. He looked so tired, like he was just now realizing how much he'd ignored over the years. They decided they needed to confront Beth that night. I wanted to be there, partly because I was worried they'd back down if I wasn't, so we agreed I'd come back after dinner. When I got back to their house around 7, Beth had just arrived with Sam, who thankfully left before I got there. I still wasn't ready to face him. My parents asked Beth to come to the living room because we needed to talk. The confrontation was, God, I don't even know how to describe it. My dad started by showing Beth the screenshots and asking if she had anything to say. Beth's first reaction was to get super defensive. She claimed they were fake and that I obviously made them up because I was jealous of her and Sam. But the messages had details only Beth would know. Plus, they were from her actual phone with her friends' actual names. I pointed out that I'd literally heard her laughing about manipulating Sam at the bridal shower. For a second, Beth just stared at me, and then her whole face changed. That sweet, innocent expression she always puts on just disappeared. She looked at me and told me I always get everything handed to me, and that everyone always feels sorry for poor little Megan. I was completely shocked. What alternate reality has she been living in? I've never gotten anything Beth hasn't gotten, first and better. But before I could even respond, my mom asked how Beth could be so cruel to her own sister. And Beth just laughed. She told me I deserved it, that I'd always been the favorite. Again, what universe is she living in? And that taking Sam from me was just evening the score. My dad told her he was deeply disappointed in her, and that this behavior was completely unacceptable. Beth rolled her eyes like a teenager and said she didn't care what any of us thought. Then my mom asked if Beth even loved Sam, and Beth just shrugged and said enough. That's when my dad told her they wouldn't be paying for a wedding that was based on lies and manipulation. Beth's face went red. She started screaming about how we were all pathetic and jealous of her happiness. Then she grabbed her purse and stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. I sat with my parents for another hour while they processed everything. My mom kept crying and saying she couldn't believe she'd missed all the signs. My dad mostly just looked sad. The wedding was supposed to be next weekend. My parents had already paid deposits on most things, and my aunt and uncle were covering the venue. Everything was already so far along. I went home that night feeling, relieved that my parents finally believed me, but also terrified about what Beth would do next. She's always been the type to escalate when she doesn't get her way. After talking with Kristen, who has been there for me through all this, I decided I needed to let Sam know the truth. And also my aunt and uncle who were paying for the venue, and a few other key people who needed to know what was really happening. I spent 3 hours drafting this email with the screenshots attached. I tried to be as factual and unemotional as possible, just presenting the evidence without a lot of commentary. I sent it Monday morning on my way to work. Anyway, the fallout was immediate. Within hours, everything fell apart. Sam called me around lunchtime. I was on recess duty, so I couldn't answer. When I finally called him back after school, he sounded really upset. He kept asking if the messages were real and told me Beth had convinced him I cheated on him, which is absolutely not true and never happened. He said he'd already called off the engagement and moved his stuff out of the apartment they'd just signed a lease on. By that evening, my aunt and uncle had called my parents to say they were pulling their funding for the venue. Several family members texted me saying they were canceling their flights for the wedding. Beth's friends were apparently abandoning her left and right as the screenshots made their way around, which I didn't intend to happen, but I guess that's how these things work. And then, Beth showed up at my apartment. It was around 10 p.m., and I was actually on the phone with Kristen when someone started pounding on my door. I knew immediately it was Beth. Kristen said she was coming over. She only lives 5 minutes away, and to not open the door until she got there. Beth was literally screaming in the hallway of my apartment building. My neighbors definitely heard everything. She was yelling that I'd ruined her life and that I needed to fix this right now. When Kristen got there, we finally let Beth in, mostly to stop the screaming in the hallway. Beth looked unhinged. Her makeup was all smeared and her hair was a mess. She immediately started demanding I call everyone and tell them the screenshots were fake. I told her I wouldn't do that because they weren't fake. They were her own words. Kristen, bless her, had the presence of mind to start recording on her phone. When Beth noticed, she literally lunged at Kristen, trying to grab the phone. I had to step between them. That's when I finally snapped. I told Beth she needed serious help, that she'd created this entire situation herself, and that I was done letting her manipulate and hurt me. She went through this bizarre cycle of threatening me. I'll make sure you never work as a teacher in this state again. To begging, please Megan, I need this wedding to happen. To crying, I don't understand why you're being so cruel to me. Finally, I told her if she didn't leave, I was calling the police. She left, but not before telling me I would regret this for the rest of my life. The wedding was officially canceled the next day. My parents told the rest of the family everything, and the support I've received has been overwhelming, honestly. Several relatives have reached out to apologize for pressuring me to be in the wedding in the first place. My mom has been calling me daily, sometimes crying, saying she can't believe she missed all the signs over the years. She and my dad have actually started going to family therapy, which I never thought would happen. Beth is staying with a friend and has apparently been telling everyone the screenshots were taken out of context, whatever that means. She's refusing to admit she did anything wrong. Most of the family has blocked her on social media. Sam has called me a few times trying to meet up. He says he was manipulated too and wants to talk. But honestly, I can't. The fact that he so easily believed I would cheat on him instead of just talking to me about it says everything I need to know. I'm done with that relationship. I still have moments where I question if I did the right thing, like, did I mess up my entire family over this? But then I remember those messages and Beth's face when she finally dropped the act, and I know I couldn't have just let this continue. I'm trying to focus on work and my friends and rebuilding my confidence after all this. It's hard. I still get random crying spells and moments of just pure anger. But for the first time in maybe my entire life, I feel like I actually stood up for myself instead of just keeping the peace. I don't know what happens next with my family. I hope Beth gets the help she clearly needs, but I'm also not expecting much. In the meantime, I'm trying to figure out who I am outside of this toxic dynamic I've been trapped in for 26 years. Edit. Thank you for all the kind comments. To answer some questions, yes, I'm still teaching, and my students have been a bright spot through all this. Being around 7-year-olds who just want to tell you about their new shoes or their pet hamster is surprisingly healing. A lot of people are asking if I think Sam was in on it or just clueless. Honestly, I think he was manipulated too. Beth is really good at what she does, but that doesn't change the fact that he believed the worst about me without ever giving me a chance to explain. And no, I definitely don't want him back.